Up was one of the most emotional animation movies of our time. It was a 2009 American drama adventure film that was produced by Pixar, and it was about a depressed man who lost his wife and was trying to fulfill the promises they had when she was still alive. It was also one of the greatest animations with a 98% rating on Rotten Tomatoes, and today we shall remember the characters who featured in the film, and then discuss the people who voiced them, who they are, and how old they are in 2025. We start with the main protagonist known as Carl Fredricksen, who was a man grieving his wife's demise, and was a bitter and a negative man who missed his wife terribly. And even though he was an ill-tempered man, deep down he was nice and was just lonely and lost. The only person who made him less sad was a boy named Russell, who always cheered him up when he was down. He was voiced by Edward Asner, who was an American actor who was one of the greatest comedian and actor in his prime, but we sadly lost him on August 29, 2021 at the age of 91 years. He succumbed peacefully at his home. Doug was a special dog who had a collar that gave him the ability to talk and communicate with humans. Just like a normal dog, Doug was playful, and was an optimistic and friendly dog who was always kind to those he loved. He was very good at following the rules, and was also easily distracted with things like squirrels. Alpha, on the other hand, was a sadistic and vicious Doberman Pinscher who was the second in command to a man known as Charles Muntz. He was a very egotistical and a proud dog who always looked down on all the other dogs in the pack. The reason he was named Alpha was because he was bigger and more better in command than all the other canines. These two dogs were voiced by Bob Peterson, an American animator, screenwriter, and a voice actor who still works at Pixar Studios ever since 1994, and has been the one coming up with all the Pixar animations that you see to date. Now to Russell, who was a junior wilderness explorer that was Carl's best friend, and was seen traveling with him to Paradise Falls. He was a loud and hyperactive kid, who was also very curious and fun-loving. The reason Carl liked Russell was because he reminded him of his wife, who was also very hyperactive and loud. He was a little overweight, and maybe the reason was because he was mostly seen eating chocolate. A good kid voiced by Jordan Nagai, who is now an American student and former child voice actor. Charles Muntz was a famous explorer who was greatly admired by Carl and his late wife. He was a charismatic and a daring man, who always had his spirits up and was always inspired by his countless fans to look for new adventures. But after an incident where the media ruined his career, he became a disgrace to his fans, and this turned him to a bitter man. His life was just like that of Carl's, as we saw that he was also trying to relive his past at any cost. He was voiced by the great Christopher Plummer, who was a Canadian actor, and will always be remembered for his performances in film stages and television appearances. He sadly passed away from a falling accident on February 5, 2021 at an old age of 91. Beta and Gamma were two dogs that were led by Alpha and were supporting antagonists in the film. They acted as lieutenants, and just like Doug and Alpha, they also had translation collars that enabled them to talk. They were seen looking for a giant bird, which was a mission given to them by Charles Muntz, and both were always being disgracefully commanded by Alpha. Beta was voiced by Delroy Lindo, who is an English-American actor, and Gamma was voiced by Jerome Ranft, who is an American character sculptor and a voice actor, and is actually the younger brother of the late Joe Ranft, who was a Pixar storyboard artist and a voice actor too. Ellie was the sweet wife to Carl Fredricksen, and we are only going to look at her younger years. She met Carl when they were young and immediately became besties. She was so passionate and curious to the mysteries of life, and always wanted to travel the world when she grew up. She was the most bubbly character in the show, and always had a dream of moving the clubhouse to South America, where she could live on a cliff in Paradise Falls. But after getting married to Carl, her dreams quickly shifted to being a wife, but was always saving up to travel. And one day when Carl took her on a picnic to surprise her with 2 plane tickets to South America, she collapsed, became ill, and sadly passed away a few days later. This beautiful lady was voiced by Ellie Doctor, a voice actress who is the daughter of another voice actor and Pixar director known as Pete Docter, who both still work in Pixar Studios to this day.